it's supporting. So, okay. Well, welcome. Good to see everybody here for week 3. As we're gathering, we'll just do a little check-in, how everybody is doing with practice, if they're getting a chance to do any practice. And as we think about how the week has gone, let's take a moment to do one of the practices we learned last week, which is the 2 hands or 2 feet and 1 breath. So you can either feel both your feet, notice them, and take a deep breath, or do that with your hands so that you come more present into the moment. Okay. So, how did it go? Did you find time to practice this week? Did you try any mindful listening? What did you learn this week? Anyone want to share? Gina, do you have something?
Oh, yeah. I was adjusting the volume, but yes. Yeah, so I discovered on my Pandora app, there's a meditation radio. Oh. And the songs are usually about 4, even 5 minutes long. Some of them are really pleasant. Some are not, but no, it was really, I used that at the beach when I was down there, just stopped, took 5 minutes, and then another day I took 10 minutes with my timer, and that felt like forever. Yeah. So I'm not sure how you stretch it to 30 minutes. That's really, I admire you.
10 is enough. Don't worry. I mean, it's, I've been meditating for forever. So, and I still like it at 15 minutes. I'm like, 30 minutes, right? So, yeah. So that's fine. That's great. Good for you.
Thanks.
Good for you. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, David.
I've been trying the mindful listening and taking a breath before I talk, and just being more aware of listening to others, letting there be like a little pause, trying not to think about what I'm going to say next before they're even done talking. Mm-hmm. And, all this other stuff going on in my mind, just trying to be really understanding of what the person's saying. Mm-hmm. And taking that extra moment in between responding and, the listening part.
Good. And how'd you experience that? Did you learn anything by doing that, or how was that experience?
I think for me, it just allows me to actually have more understanding about what the person's saying, and they feel more heard. I think they feel more heard as I was more present. And, the next level, of course, is to be able to actually have empathy, I think, for what the person's saying, like an understanding, kind of relating that over to them. Mm-hmm. And I think it's hard to do when you're either not present or more concerned about what you have to say than what they're saying. Even like you said, it's not that you have to agree with what they're saying,
right? But
the fact that they feel that you understand and heard what they said is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else want to share what they learned this week during their practice? Yeah, well, Cynthia. Oh, sorry. I'll get you next, Kathy. Cynthia, go ahead.
So we're doing distance learning with my cousin's 7-year-old, which is, so I've started linking my, trying to meditate. I have a timer set. When he goes on break, I take my vitamin. And so the timer goes off. So then when I come back to my bedroom to get my vitamin, I take that time to do some meditation right then. And I'm finding that even just listening in, like I'm tense. And so I do the body scan. And what I found mostly is I'm mostly tense in my shoulders and my face. And I had never realized it, like my face is just scrunched up and like all like this. Just, it's so interesting. So just taking that time to set it to when I take my vitamin and to go through and just kind of calm and relax and just really pay attention that my face is all scrunched up and tense. I've never thought of that before.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Yeah. Kathy, you wanted to add in something?
Well, I was just going to be a smart aleck and say I'm mindful of the fact that I'm not doing anything with what I'm learning. So. But I have my notes. And the fact that I'm even here is good.
Well, let me tell you something I learned this week that I thought might be helpful to us all. And it's the difference between discipline and commitment. Now, a lot of times when we don't do things, we say, I need more discipline. But discipline, like the second definition of discipline, is punishment. Okay? It's not the first definition, but it's the second definition, punishment. And instead of saying, I need more discipline to do my meditation, focus instead on growing your commitment. So you may not be practicing every day, maybe even every week, but saying, I'm committed to this and I'm committed to figuring this out. You know, commitment is the kind of energy that it pours you a cup of tea and says, yes, I know this is hard, but we can figure this out. You know, discipline is, you know, drop and give me 10, right? So it's the idea that I think as we learn about anything new, if it's something we want to try out, you know, just say, I'm going to make a 30-day commitment to it, and I'm just going to see how that goes. And maybe I do it 3 times in 30 days and I go, okay, I'll make another 30-day commitment. I did it 3 times. Maybe I'll do it 4 times this month. So it's that working it out, the being curious about it, and just being fine with the fact that it takes a while. A lot of people give up things because they don't feel they're, you know, disciplined enough. But I think if we think about commitment instead, it can grow a sense that it's a process and that none of us are going to do it well or 100% or anything even close to that. I think with anything that you're doing, like I shoot to be a C student, you know, which is good for me because like I was one of those students who got all A's all the time, right? So I'm like, I'm just shooting for a C, which actually then lets me grow into an A a lot more than if I'm shooting for an A and I make a mistake and then I beat myself up, right? So it's just kind of it's a mind thing. It's a way to think about things, but I think it's helpful. So you go, girl, Kathy. You do it that way and you figure it out for yourself. I love it. Okay, Sean, you had something you want to add?
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think what I learned this week, more like what I discovered this week, is that I will do what I need to do for everybody else. But I actually had to say, wow, this is for me. And so I'm not prioritizing it. And why is that? Like, you know, I'll do for my husband, do for my kids, do for my work, but my own stuff was like, well, no, I can put that off.
Right.
And just the awareness of that was troubling and interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it's just something to be curious about. And okay, that's what I tend to do. What might I change this week just to, you know, move me from 20th place to 19th place, you know? And you know, because it's we beat ourselves up so much, and that's just not going to grow any of this. It's not going to grow our faith. It's not going to grow our relationships. It's not going to grow really anything. So this is a way for us to kind of look at that a little more in a helpful way, I hope. So let me tell you a little bit about today. We're going to start off with a meditation using some different anchors. I want to give you a chance to explore that a little more. And then we're going to I'm going to give you a little talk on anxiety, stress, and meditation. And so if a lot of times people will come to meditation because they are stressed out. And then, so you'll get some information on that. And then we're going to do a guided meditation for stress. It's a meditation that actually comes from the VA, the Veterans Administration, and it's one of my favorite. meditation. So we'll do that together, and then we'll have time for question and answer, and then talk about some things you could try out this week to see what works for you. So go ahead and mute yourselves, and if you don't know how to do that, let me know and I can mute you. And we'll start off with a meditation with an anchor. So we've talked about using meditations, using anchors as part of meditation, and how that they are tools that really assist us in being more present. So last week I gave you a whole list. I talked about, visual, and we looked at that picture of Vasquez rocks, but you could use a sound as an anchor, or your breath as an anchor, or your body, which is when we do the body scan. So what we're going to do is we're going to try 4 different anchors, and each of them will be a couple minutes, and I'll guide you so you don't have to worry about any of the timing or anything. But we'll do 4 different anchors. And one of the reasons I want to introduce this to you is because this is one of the ways I meditate, and one of the ways I've increased my practice. I probably could not sit and just count my breath for 30 minutes, but I could use a variety of anchors in a span of 10 minutes or 20 minutes as a way to be more engaged and more mindful in my practice. So what we'll do is we'll do a focus on our breath. We'll do a focus on a word, or the tradition might call it a mantra. And so you might want to just think, what word would you like to focus on? If you don't think of any word, you could use the word love or the word kind. Then we'll also do a couple minutes on listening to the sounds around us and anchoring with the sound. And then we'll finish up with our body. So I'll guide you through all of this. So all you have to do now is to get comfortable, sit in a way that is both relaxed but attentive to your practice. And I invite you to notice your breath, what a gift it is, and how it just happens. So take in a couple deep breaths, and let the breath help you be present in this moment. And as you breathe, notice where you feel the breath come in. Might be through your nose or your mouth or both, but just notice that sensation. And now you'll just spend a couple minutes focusing on that anchor, noticing that breath and how it feels in your body as we focus on the breath. So let us turn to this anchor now. If there's any time that your mind wanders away from the focus on the breath, just gently bring it back. And now let's move to the next anchor. I invite you to think of a word that is uplifting that you'd like to focus on. If you don't have a word that comes to your mind right now, you can use the word love or the word kind. And what you will do is take a moment to say the word silently to yourself. You might try saying it as you breathe in, as a way of taking this word into your heart. And then as you breathe out, releasing this into the world. Let us take a couple moments to focus on the anchor of the word. Now I invite you to turn your attention to any sounds that may be in the room with you. It might be a fan or air conditioning, cars going by, children, whatever you hear, even if it is just a sound of nothing, silence at this moment. Let yourself enter into the sounds around you for the next couple minutes, using these sounds to be your anchor. And if your mind wanders, just thank it. It's doing what it does, and come back to the sound. And last, we'll turn to our body as an anchor. So notice your feet and your legs and up to your hips. And notice if there is any sensation there now, tingling or heat or tenderness. And imagine breathing into these spaces, whatever you might need. Relaxation, healing, even vitality. Next, notice your stomach and your chest and your back. Scanning for any tingling or heat or tenderness, any tightness. And now imagine breathing into these spaces, whatever you may need. Relaxation or healing, vitality. And next, notice your shoulders and your neck, your chin and your face. Measuring if there's any tension or tenderness, any tightness there. And take a moment to breathe into these spaces, whatever it is you need, relaxation or healing. Now take a moment to revisit any of the anchors that we have talked about, whether that's spending some more time in a part of your body that you'd like to give attention to, or with a mantra that you'd like to focus on, or taking a moment to notice the sound, or ending with a moment on your breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So how did that work for you to have a whole bunch of different anchors? What did you think of that? You can unmute yourself if you'd like to share what that experience was like for you.
I thought it was easier. Took me around, gave a little diversity, it helped make the time go by faster, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I also think if you weren't here guiding me through, I would have passed out.
Why would you have passed out?
I was just so relaxed and so like I was drifting off, and then you brought me back. I'm like, oh my gosh, is my Zoom broken? Are people still there? Like everything's gone.
Yeah, right. Well, what about others of you? What did you find in that?
I agree that the time went faster doing that.
Yeah.
And I noticed I still had a lot of problems with my mind wandering.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the sound one, I really, because all I heard for a while was cars and cars and cars. Then all of a sudden, kind of, the little bird chirps.
Mhm.
And then, you know, that was just so wonderful. But I had to keep saying, birds, birds, you know, to stay focused on them.
Yeah.
But it was lovely to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite ways to meditate. It is a way to increase your practice. So my cheating way of doing this, and I'm all about cheating, is so I use the Insight Timer. And what you can do on Insight Timer is that you can set a bell to, so you could say, I'm going to do 10 minutes, and at minute 5 a bell rings. So at you begin and you end, there's a bell, but then there's also a bell in the middle. So if you had 15 minutes, you could set it up. There's a bell at minute 0, at minute 5, at minute 10, at minute 15. So when you hear that bell, then you can change what you're focusing on. So you could do 5 minutes of a body scan. You could do 5 minutes of listening to the sounds. And the sound one in the spring, you know, you go out, sit in the backyard and listen to the birds for 5 minutes. It's really quite wonderful. But I think it's a great way to do different ones, and you'll find different anchors are helpful for you in different ways. You know, I think the breathing one is always helpful, but you know, there are some people I've worked with, some teenagers, and the breathing thing is not as helpful for them, I think, because they kind of hyperventilate, right? So, you know, they're not used to taking in a deep breath and letting it out, and they start hyperventilating, which isn't good. So we focus instead on 5 minutes on just thinking on their hands and relaxing their hands. So instead of the breath. But yeah, I think it's a good one. I think it's an easy way to grow your practice. And so I recommend it to you. So let me tell you a little bit about.
We just did.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What did we just do? 6 minutes?
We did 2, 4, 6, 8 minutes.
Wow. How about that, guys? Woo, let's celebrate. 8
I know,
minutes.
right? That's right. It's very good. Okay. So let me talk a little bit now about anxiety, stress, and meditation. Because a lot of times people want to learn about meditation because either they're dealing with stress and anxiety, or someone in their life is, and they'd like to be able to spend time helping them. If you have someone in your life who's anxious, you may have gotten into meditation as a way to be a resource to them. The National Alliance on Mental Health says that there's 40 million adults in the US who have an anxiety disorder. So that's 1 in 14 people worldwide. So many people are dealing with anxiety. Anxiety disorders in general are characterized by excessive fear, which is an emotional response to a perceived or a real threat, and also anxiety, which is worry about the future. Now, there's several types. There's what's called general anxiety, which is worry about everyday things. There's social anxiety, which is worry about being evaluated negatively in social situations. There's separation anxiety, which is we fear being separated from our home or our loved ones. There's a panic disorder, which is panic arises and strikes us without warning. And then there's what's called obsessive compulsive disorder, which is obsession or a compulsion to repeat behaviors and rituals. So I think to understand this, not just for people who are diagnosed, but to just everybody in general, to get a little sense of how all this works, how stress works on our brain, is to talk a little bit about how the brain works. So deep within the brain is the amygdala, and it's kind of our processing chip. It's our emotional thermostat. And so like any thermostat, it's susceptible to forces. So some things that happen in our lives lead our amygdala to struggle to regulate itself. Now, why this happens isn't totally clear. Some of us actually have a larger amygdala than other people. And it makes people who have a larger amygdala more anxious They tend to be more anxious in social situations in general in life, but they're also usually people who are more socially intelligent, kind, generous, and loving. So it's this flip side. Some people have a larger amygdala. They may be more anxious, but they also tend to be more socially intelligent, kind, generous, and loving. So what we know is that we can actually reshape the structure and neural pathways of the brain. This concept is called neuroplasticity. And it can shape the brain. We can shape the brain for good or for ill. So good experiences like meditation help reshape the brain in a good way. Trauma, accidents, pain can reshape the brain in a way for ill. So studies show that using an MRI to scan the brain shows that it helps the amygdala shrink if we have a meditation practice. And it helps the prefrontal cortex, the area of our brain that governs awareness, become thicker and more integrated. So what all this means in kind of everyday English is that meditation increases our capacity to manage anxiety. And the more we practice, the more resistant we become to anxiety. Now, meditation is not a quick fix. You actually need a long-term approach for meditation. It takes a while and it takes a consistency. And if you have an anxiety disorder, so I'm not talking about just everyday anxiety, I'm talking about it is a substantial thing in your life, you need to speak to a healthcare provider. So I talk about this not so you can just meditate and stop taking your meds. That is a bad idea. Understanding anxiety, I think, is helpful, and understanding that a regular practice of meditation is part of helping us deal with this. So why is that? Why does meditation help us deal with anxiety? Well, through meditation, we come to see ourselves, our thoughts, and our stories. We're more aware of the things going on in our brain, and we learn in meditation to sit with them, to look at them, and to let them go. So meditation, so you know how I talked about how when I meditate, a lot of times my thoughts are about plans I'm making, right? So it helps me understand how my brain works. I like to plan. I'm a planner. I sit with all these plans. I look at them. I'm able to let them go. I'm able to understand myself better instead of being driven. So meditation helps us see our thoughts and to see that our thoughts do not need to define us. Meditation also, especially mindfulness, helps us get more in touch with our bodies. And a lot of us live in our heads, and meditation can be a great tool to help us be more centered in our bodies. And that is grounding for us. That is life-giving for us. So meditation counters the stress response by helping create change in our connection to ourself. Right? We become more patient with ourselves. We become more generous with ourselves. We become less reacting to ourselves. And this leads to that gradual change in our brain. Now, anxiety and stress are normal parts of life. Everybody has them. But it's good to have some tools to help us deal with them. And meditation is one of those tools. And meditation, I think, helps us get on a more stable path. So what is most helpful in using meditation to deal with stress and anxiety? First, a regular practice. That can be 5 minutes, right? It's the idea that it's regular. It's much better to do 5 minutes, 4 days a week than 20 minutes, 1 day a week. So it's that regular practice that helps our brain. What also helps us deal with stress is using an anchor like our breath. You know, we're all told, probably all of us were told at some point, you know, take a couple deep breaths, right? Because a lot of times when we are anxious, we breathe shallow And meditation often helps us breathe more deeply, which helps us come into our bodies and relax. I find that when I'm anxious and I use a meditation practice to help me, I will often put my hand on my heart as a way of nurturing myself, a way of centering myself, a way of giving myself attention in the midst of it. And then I also think that one of the things that helps us dealing with stress by using meditation is to have some ongoing things we do throughout the day that aren't meditation practices, but they're mindfulness practices. So like we started with, 2 feet, 1 breath. So as you walk around during the day, going into your kitchen, when you get to your kitchen, pause, notice your 2 feet, take 1 deep breath. These kinds of things help us be mindful throughout the day, which helps us deal with anxiety, stress, and burnout. Another easy practice, like the 2 feet, 1 breath, is what's called the 4-word practice. So this is like a phrase that you might repeat to yourself and take a deep breath. So a couple of those that are probably most popular are: peace begins with me, and work is not life. But you can come up with any phrase that you like that you might say throughout the day as a way to center yourself, become more present to yourself. So if you're dealing with stress, I like the mantra just to use the word peace. If you're a person of faith, my peace I give to you, my peace I leave with you, right? So peace is part of the Christian tradition. We talk about peace a lot. So just focusing on something short that connects you. So let's turn your mics on and let's reflect on this together. What you think about stress and meditation, what your thoughts are about this, and any questions you might have. I see none of you have any stress or anxiety.
I like let go, let God.
That's a great one. Mm-hmm. Right.
I'll try to incorporate some of those things, especially before my big golf shot I have to make.
That's right.
Take a big deep breath.
Big deep breath, 2 feet, 1 breath. I think that's perfect for golf. 1 swing, 2 feet, 1 breath, 1 swing. Yeah, I think a lot of people get into meditation because they're dealing with stress and anxiety, and I know in the last, couple months when I've upped my meditation, it's certainly been because, everything's getting more anxious in the world, all the things going on, certainly with the election coming and just all the stress and anxiety with COVID. And so I think that meditation is one of the tools I use when I notice, I'm getting more crabby or more anxious, or I'm doing a numbing behavior. So numbing behaviors are things like eating too much, drinking too much, shopping too much, whatever it is you do. So you are not, giving attention to how you're feeling. Then I think it's a helpful practice, because it's about, acknowledging I'm anxious, this is how I feel, and I'm going to spend some time being where I'm at.
What if you're doing all 3 of those behaviors? Should I be meditating like 4 hours a day then? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, usually you do one, and then, like you say, I'm not going to drink anymore. And then instead you start eating a tub of ice cream every night, right? So that's I'm not going to eat ice cream anymore. And then you're on Amazon every night. Most of us are serial offenders, or all a little bit, right? All a little bit. Yeah. So, just some stuff to think about. But I do think it's important to know that meditation, a regular practice, actually does do things to our brain. It does help change us. And I know my son has anxiety, and I was telling him about this stuff, and he was saying, I must have the biggest amygdala there is. I must have a huge one. And I'm like, I think everyone feels like that, right? We all feel like mine must be really huge because I'm super anxious. But we all deal with this, and it's really how do we nurture ourselves, and how do we process what we feel in a way that's, you know, healthy for us. So let me do a meditation with you. This is a guided meditation for stress. So go ahead and mute yourselves. And as we're getting ready, just get comfortable where you're at. And close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. If not, just have your gaze look down. And we're going to begin with a few slow, deep breaths. And if it works for you, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Letting your body relax. And let the chair that you're sitting on fully support your body as you continue to breathe and relax. We're going to use the tool of imagination. So imagine yourself walking slowly down a path. It is a pleasant path, any kind you wish. And it is a beautiful day, and you feel relaxed and happy. You feel the warmth and energy of the sunlight on your skin. And soon you come to a gate. And you know that this gate leads to a special place where you feel welcome and safe and comfortable. So push the gate open and allow yourself to enter your very own private garden. The garden is filled with your favorite things. Whatever is pleasing to you can be found in this place. So perhaps there are flowers or trees, animals, birds, water, even music. Look around and notice what is in your garden. See the colors and the objects that are in this place. Notice how beautiful they are, looking at the various shapes and seeing how varied they are. Your gaze looks at the ground and then up toward the sky, seeing that horizon where they meet. And you feel calm and tranquil as you stand in this garden. For everything is peaceful. As you are looking, you become aware of how things might feel to the touch in this private place of yours. So reach out your hand and explore this place with your sense of touch. Some things may be soft and warm, others smooth and cool. Notice what the air feels like. Is the breeze warm or cool? Or maybe there's no breeze at all. Maybe it's still. So take a moment to feel the peace and serenity of this place as you explore the garden by seeing and feeling, and now becoming aware of the sounds that you hear in your garden. The sounds in your garden are pleasing to the ear and may be very comforting. Perhaps it is quiet in your garden, or maybe there are many sounds. Some may be very soft, others louder. Relax and listen for a while and see if you can identify the different sounds in your garden. And as you're listening, become aware of what smells are there as well. Take a deep breath in and notice the fragrances that are present. Some may be familiar, while others may be new, but all are pleasant and soothing. Take time to enjoy your garden. Sitting on a bench, walking around, enjoying the sights and sounds. Spend the time that is necessary for you to rejuvenate and to care for yourself. And when you are ready, slowly walk back to the gate of your garden. You have enjoyed your visit and you feel relaxed and content. The good feelings will remain with you throughout this day. Push the gate open and return to the path that led you to the garden. And as you make your way up the path to the here and now, remember, you can use your imagination to return to your garden anytime you wish. Know that you can visit anytime to relax, to be comforted, just to enjoy its beauty. You are now ready to resume your day. So stretch gently and open your eyes, feeling refreshed and alert. Okay, go ahead and unmute yourselves. That's a different kind of a meditation. Very guided, full of seeing and touching and smelling, a little different than what we've done before. How did that connect to you? Or if it didn't, that's fine too. Let's just hear people's thoughts on that one.
Well, I loved it, and I would like you to come do that for me every day.
I can send you the audio file. You could do it every day.
It's a really good idea. I was most interested in tapping into in the garden because I'm a gardener, so I really enjoy that. But also I was pulling memories from walking around the Huntington Gardens, and like this, they have some orange trees that when they're in bloom, oh my God, you know, and
Yeah.
for all of you, I know I live in Wisconsin now, but I was in Pasadena, and I could just smell that orange, you know, blossom, you know, and just then smell, you know, and then smell the roses. They have all those beautiful roses. It was interesting. The smell in particular triggered me in a good way.
Yeah, yeah. Others, what did you feel about that one?
I could feel the moisture on the, the grass I was touching and some of the plants, like the morning dew or whatever. I could hear the water.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I was trying to imagine the smell of rain in the garden.
Ooh.
Since we need rain, and I just love the smell of after it's rained. It's just a wonderful smell.
Yeah.
Just constantly share some of that, maybe.
Yeah.
Or a freshly mown grass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Has a nice smell to me.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of helping my dad mow the lawn.
Mm. Yeah, so it's really nurturing. Vicki, did you have one you want to add?
Just that it seemed a little easier to stay with you, because you were moving around more, and so it allowed that in your brain more than just focusing on one thing, I think.
Yes. Yeah. And Judy, you want to get in? Oh, I think you're muted.
There
you go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was saying I loved it too. I really loved it. But I have a question about when we first started.
Yeah.
We were walking slowly. I had a hard time with that. I wanted to run. Does that mean I'm still stressed? I don't know what that.
You wanted to get into the garden and relax.
Well, I didn't know the garden was there yet, remember? So I don't know, but I had a hard time just, meandering.
Meandering.
I was kind of running.
Well, sure, slowing down a bit, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. But once you got into it, were you able
Once I got in the garden, it was wonderful. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great one. It's not for everyone because a lot of people, I don't know what the percentage of the population is that can't do that kind of thing, can't see those images in their mind. And so for them, seeing a garden in your mind or thinking of the smells, they just, it's a wall. It's not something that's accessible. So it's not accessible to everybody. But I think it's a helpful one. And because it brings you into, I always think of the movie, The Secret Garden. So if you ever read that book or saw that movie, I think of that kind of a garden where there's a gate that you go into this whole other world, right? So, but I think it's a good one, and it's one, like I said, that's developed by the VA. So, the VA is, dealing with people coming back from war and traumatic experiences, and helping people connect through images like this to deal with stress and to help them relax and to be more centered in their life. Yeah, Cynthia.
So my cousin I'm living with, she is a neuropsychologist who works at the VA with stroke victims, and and the government is spending millions of dollars on these mindfulness experiments, and does it help, and what does the brain do? So I mean, I know we all know this is legitimate, but I mean, I'm just saying the government is adding millions of dollars on these kinds of things in hopes of helping veterans and others. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's huge. And I think it's, it takes time, right? It takes some time for us to do a 7-minute or a 10-minute kind of experience. And a lot of times we won't give ourselves that time. But I think we are seeing more and more, whether it's with people who are dealing with ongoing stress or trauma, or just people dealing with the stress of everyday life, that we need these practices to help us get centered. So let's do some question and answer time on meditation practice, anything related to any of the stuff we've talked about over the past 3 weeks. If you have any questions, we have a couple minutes for that. You're all very quiet. Yes, Cynthia. Go ahead, Cynthia.
So it's very interesting what you were just saying about how it's, we can train our bodies, that there's a physical relationship with the meditation and our brains. And like I said, that's what she does, but it's it's interesting to say, oh, some people are just more anxious than other people and you just have to deal with it. Well, that's not very helpful.
No.
So this is a tool and a mindful way to realize that we do have a little bit of control. Of course, we're all born in certain ways and we are predisposed, but there is something that we can actually do and try to help. So that was interesting to learn.
Yeah. Great.
Besides taking drugs all the time or pills for everything. I mean, some people need it, but I'm just saying this is another tool.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And Gina, you were jumping in?
This meditation reminded me of one I took. I had similar idea of imagining a place many years ago, but it was imagining a room, putting everything in that room that makes you feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah.
And then part of the meditation led you to have one or two people in that room that you trust. It didn't have to be people necessarily that you know, but two people that you could trust. And it just reminded me of that meditation because my two people were Jesus and Santa Claus.
I love it, Gina. I love it.
I'm coming to your garden.
I love it.
But then, you trust them and they'll help you out.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. There you go. Any other questions? Any other things you're curious about with meditation or?
I just want to, I don't know. I took this class and I asked you about the person or whatever before, on centering prayer.
Yeah.
And I've tried a little bit. I'm not doing as well as I should. Be kind to myself. And I think of that as kind of a meditation because you're so quiet. I mean, it's just, and so is that kind of a meditation?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I first started doing meditation, it was centering prayer. That's what they taught us in my all-girls Catholic school when I was going through confirmation. Yeah. And that's what we learned. That's how we started. And so there was, phrases we repeated or a scripture we heard, and then there was time for silence, and then there was time for breathing. And, we did retreat where we went away and, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think every tradition has something, right? They may call it meditation. They may call it centering prayer. So I think the big difference, like for me, prayer is more about talking to God or connecting with God, maybe through lighting a candle or journaling about a scripture. That may be a kind of prayer. Centering prayer is really kind of a line between them where you're thinking, you're spending time in silence and reflecting. So there's a lot of great stuff. We have a centering prayer group at this church.
Yeah, that's how I found out about it.
Yeah.
And then on the Insight Timer. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not meeting right now, but they do 4 or 5 sessions a couple times a year. And they've even brought in a Roman Catholic nun who teaches centering prayer at one of the convents in the area. So yeah, so I think every tradition has something. I was just listening to a podcast this week, and the woman who leads, it's her podcast, she's Mormon. And she was interviewing someone who's really trying to bring meditation and mindfulness to the Mormon church, and how it's become a big movement there as well, which before it was, it was something that people really shunned, any kind of quietness and quiet practice and any kind of mysticism, that would be a bigger camp for these things, was viewed as negative, but not anymore. I think people in all traditions are looking for how this connects, and how this, helps us live better lives. Be more present, be more loving, be less triggered by each other, being able to pause and let people be and not need to correct them or take personally when they try to correct us, and just, developing that space, that internal space, which I think meditation is about. So, yeah. Okay, so this week, continue practicing in a way that works for you. So if you haven't started yet, or you're trying to figure it out, even just 5 minutes a day, so you could sit in the backyard and listen to the birds for 5 minutes a day, or listen to your fan for 5 minutes a day, right? Right? We all got 5 minutes. So just experiment. I think you can't see if it's really for you till you just try it out. Give it a test run. See what you think. On a lot of the apps that are out there, you will see that they'll do like a 30-day challenge, and they'll give you something to do each day. So that can sometimes help if you're looking for something structured to be part of the app. 10% Happier often runs a 30-day challenge, so you can check them out. It comes from a book by Dan Harris, who is a journalist who had a panic attack online while he was giving a news report, and then got into meditation. And he has a podcast. He has several books, and he has this app. And so they often do 30-day challenges. I've had some people who've done that and found that very helpful. Gives you a little more structure in all of this. And, use whatever's helpful for you. This is not about there's one way to do it. There's, as many ways as there are. And it's really about figuring out what works for you, what you want to try out.
I was just going to say, I'd throw out the app Calm.
Yes.
As well. I mean, you can even have Matt Damon walking you through. Actually, the one I really like is the all right guy. I can't remember his name. Whatever his name is.
Oh, yes.
Matthew McConaughey.
Yes. There's a meditation with him on there. So
right.
It's kind of fun, but also just anything to get you interested enough to do it.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And you're surprised sometimes at who the meditators are.
Yeah.
Right. Like Jerry Seinfeld, he's been meditating for like 30 years, so there's all kinds of people you would not think about. So there's really a lot of room to figure it out in a way that works for you. But the idea is really the small and steady steps. And then a couple times through the day, doing something that just brings you back to that present moment. So you're eating your lunch mindfully, or you're pausing for a moment while you wash your hands. All those things, just to be a little more mindful, bring that presence more into your life. And then doing things that work for you. So that's my spiel for today for you all. So let me close us in a word of prayer. So God, we're thankful for this time. You call us to be people who are fully integrated in our hearts and in our minds and in our bodies and in our spirits and our community. As we go from this time, may we go, having done this work, that it would be healing and wonderful and whole for us, and that we would take what we've learned and share that out in the world today, so the world would be that much more of a beautiful place. All of this we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so you will get a email that has an evaluation in it. And that evaluation, part of what I'm doing, I have to have you evaluate how I'm doing. That goes to my instructor. So you'll get a link to take the evaluation. It's pretty quick. It should just take you like 5 minutes to do, but it'd be really helpful if you could do that. Part of my getting credit for the class is having at least 6 people do the evaluation. So I'm like, okay. So I'll send you a link so you'll see it. It's on SurveyMonkey.
Don't we have one more session?
We do. We have one more session.
Okay.
I have to start pounding the evaluation. Otherwise, if I wait till the last week, you're done with the class and you're done with me. You're on to your next.
Moving on.
Totally. Okay, my friends, have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.